and it has a very interesting background. Gloria Gossard's father, who owned the Gossard Girdle Company, thought that he was going to make Steamboat Springs a resort a long time before there was a Mount Werner. And this was going to be the basis of it. And you can see what remains are the two posts, I think, that are out on Lincoln Avenue. And he owned quite a bit of property in Steamboat Springs along Lincoln Avenue, and he owned this property and he owned the Strawberry Park Hot Springs. And I don't know what happened, but the story was that sometime in the late 20s, or maybe it was the early 30s, maybe it was the beginning of the Depression, that he gave the University of Colorado all of the property that he owned in Steamboat Springs. And there were some businessmen in Steamboat who felt that they needed to have access to some of that property. Claude Lukens, Dorothy Withers' father, Archie Dinius, I can't remember who the others are. You may know from the records, Pat, I don't know. I can't remember. But at any rate, this group got together and went to Boulder because the University of Colorado was not interested in doing any upgrades to a little town in the mountains. So this group bought back from the University of Colorado all the property that Mr. Gossard had given to the university. And among that was this piece in the Strawberry Park Hot Springs. And when they got through distributing the pieces of property along Lincoln Avenue that they wanted for their own businesses, they decided that what they would do would be to run this property as a public amenity, semi-public amenity. And they created the Steamboat Springs Health and Recreation Association. But they were not interested in spending any additional dollars. So the property depreciated, or at least it deteriorated. And the state health department in 1967 came in and said, you know, we would have, if this had been a public business, we would have closed it down years ago, but because of the way that you're running it, we've let you slide by, but we can't anymore. Now there's a picture out in the hallway, 1925, that shows the building that was here. That building was still here in 1966 when we came. So this group decided that if they were going to have to do anything, they'd have to get a loan. And they went to the FHA, and the FHA said, we'll give you a loan, but you need to go and sell 250 memberships to demonstrate that there is public support for this property. And when I came home and said I had bought one of these for $50, I caught all kinds of hell. But anyway, in 1967, the pool was redug And in fact, I can't remember now whether they dug it in meters and it was scheduled to be done in yards and they had to close it down, or whether it was originally in yards and it was supposed to be in meters and they had to excavate some more.
No, it was bigger. The old pool footprint was bigger, and they just created the new 25-yard pool inside.
Inside.
Because it looks like a lake. I mean, you can see the pictures of it.
Yeah.
It was giant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at any rate, in 1968, it opened as a semi-public amenity. And the original board, Hugh Richards, who was a physician in town, was the president. Chuck Kuplick was on the board, Dorothy Wither was on the board, Claude Lukens was on the board, Marvin Crawford was on the board.
All dead people.
I can't remember who else was on the board, but some were elected for 1-year terms, some for a 2-year term, some for 3-year term. And Marvin was one of those 1-year terms, and at the end of his term, he said he really wasn't interested in serving on the board. And so at the annual meeting, Jan Vail nominated me, and I didn't know any better, so I said okay. And I got elected to the board in 1969. That loan from the FHA had a $14,000 payment. And we worked each year to try and come up with $14,000 to make this payment in January. And it was a struggle every year. We went through probably 2 managers a year. I can remember a half a dozen of them, but no more than that. But the managers came in and the managers left. And in 1974, we made the interest payment. We couldn't make the principal payment. And the board considered giving the facility to the city. And we went to the city, and I think it probably was Don Brookshire who was so belligerent about it, and he said, of course you're going to give us the Strawberry Park Hot Springs too. And I mean, he was really nasty about it. And when he we said, let us see your proposed budget. Well, the first thing that they did was to they were going to double the rate. And part of the reason that we had been in trouble is that the board had for years, and this was from 1969 to 1974, we had purposely kept the rate as low as we felt we could so that everybody in town could belong if they wanted to. And when the city said, you know, this is what we're going to do, we said, well, thanks, but no thanks. And I'm not sure who found Pat.
Lincoln Jones.
Link Jones, he was an architect that was on the board. But at any rate, Pat was like the fairy godmother who came and waved her magic wand. Oh, the next year we were not able to make the payment. We were not even able to make the interest payment. And within 18 months, we were caught up. We had made the back interest payments, the back principal payments, and Pat was just a marvelous addition to this. I mean, she's why the pool is as the pool is.
Had I known any better at the time. 28
But shortly after that, we started talking about building the building that is part of this, and we ended up selling the Strawberry Park Hot. Oh, well, we had tried a number of things to make the Strawberry Park Hot Springs work, and there was a group in town that was against wearing clothes at the Strawberry Park Hot Springs. And when we put a building up there for changing, they dumped the building over into the springs. And by the time that you called the sheriff to come out because there was somebody that was up there that wasn't doing what they were supposed to be doing, they were gone. And it was it was a headache. So the board at that point decided we would use the Strawberry Park Hot Springs as a source of income, and from that we were able to build the building that's this one has added to. Over the years, there have been, and I'm going to let Pat take it from here because she knows better than I, but we still, I mean, when Pat said that I was a financial conservative, we had a member on the board who I thought I should retire many years before I did, but I was told that every board needs a curmudgeon. But by being fiscally conservative, but not, restrictive, we were able to grow. The folks in this town still think, or at least a lot of them still think, that this is a municipal facility, which it is not. I mean, you all know that. But it came as, it has eventuated, I think, as part of the Steamboat Resort that Mr. Gossard pictured originally. I mean, I think people come here and some of them, they come to the pool, they don't necessarily come to ski. As I say, I think I'm going to let Pat take it from there because you're the one that was responsible for all the growth, and without Pat, this place wouldn't be here today.
That's my biggest cheerleader, just so you know. He tells that story everywhere. No, I was telling someone else, but like you said, we went through 6 managers. It was like, I'm not sure the choice of the people that they chose to run this had any idea of money in, money out kind of thing. So it made me look really good when I was paying attention to, okay, we need to charge this, and then we pay this, and all of how that goes. So it just, we were in a big hole, and we just climbed slowly but surely out of it, and then did all these little additions that everyone makes fun of us for. Closing the porch over this and closing this, but we did what we could afford. We did what we had the money. We'd go, we'd put it away. We got $186,000 from selling Don Johnson the Hot Springs. What a deal he's made out of that one. But he's done a great job up there. He really has, and made a lot of money. But yeah, we took that 186, and then in 1980 we put a little second floor on the little building that was there, and then in 1983 we did this, and in 1980s it was, plus I just kind of like building things, and that was kind of fun, but we just did what we could afford and what we needed, because the town, no one at this table was here in the 70s. I mean, this town was like, everyone knew everyone, dirt roads, the whole kind of scene it was back then. And this was like the hub. This is where they took showers. This is where everyone came. before they went out to the bars and all the rest of it. But, and then the town grew, so then we grew. You know, the town would grow a little bit and we'd add 1,000 square feet. It's not the most efficient way to expand something. 1991 was the biggest thing we did. We put a bigger, fancier second floor on and came out. And then after 91, then this. So what was that? How many years was that? 30 years or whatever. But it's just, we never liked borrowing money after we got rid of the FHA. Just
We did.
because we finally paid that off, whatever year that was, that we paid off. Yeah, we couldn't even get $14,000. That's how bad it was. However, my big salary was $7,000. When I got hired, I thought, wow, I am rich. I have a salary, $7,000 a year. What is that, $100 a week? But yeah, no, and it's just being responsible, and like Bud calls himself a curmudgeon. He would rein in some of a couple of other board members in my wilder, you know. I would always, you know, why don't we do this? You know, we had people like Charlie Williams, who was a realtor, you know, and he was a lap swimmer, and he said, we're gonna figure out how to have the lap pool in the wintertime. Because the pipes, they weren't going that way before. So he got this friend who was an engineer, yada yada, and then they did that. And that was in 1980. Then this other board member, let's have a water slide, they make a lot of money. And we didn't have a lot of money, so we made a deal with these guys out of Salt Lake City, who I think were about 12. So they came and like loaned us the money, and then we just, you know, those of you who were here, we built that cool water slide.
Yeah.
And we were trying to keep people warm going, because they had to go all the way down the walkway. We had this great idea of a revolving door for people to keep warm. Yeah, meanwhile it shredded their feet. They're barefoot and they're in a revolving, yeah, so anyway, we ripped that thing out. Quite a few people went to the hospital after that. And we figured it all out. It's just, you know, I don't know. To me, it wasn't rocket science. It was just you put your head down and you just do what you gotta do and pay attention to how much money, you know, just madly counting the money every minute. Up till what? Till I retired in 17.
Yesterday.
I loved it. I loved counting the money. Counting the money was like, wow, look at all this money, and then taking it to the bank. Yeah, yeah, just because we just never had any, and then all of a sudden we did.
Well, I don't know how many of you heard Jane's story outside. I managed to get out of being the president of the organization till the very end. I finally had to succumb to that. But at any rate, Jill Leary was the president of the Wells Fargo Bank, and we got a $5 million loan. And Mike Holleran, who had been the president a couple of times, said to Jane, does that make you nervous that I had signed a $5 million note? And she said, no, because he signed it, Mike Holleran.
That's awesome.
Which I didn't. It's too bad. We should have waited just a little longer on that loan, and we would have.
Hindsight 2020.
We would have gotten a better rate.
We
But-
thought interest rates were gonna go up, and we all know where they went in 2007, straight down, so this ridiculous swap thing that we got, which we still love and own, but for 7 more years. Yeah, cause they make too much money when the gap between, you know, what we borrowed at and what the floating rate is, but whatever. It's been a 5% loan it was a 20-year note in 2007, and 2027, we'll be out from under that thing, but it's worked fine. But yeah, that's why we decided for all this, it was time to be a fundraising 501c3 for capital. You know,
Yeah, we had been a 501c4 for a long time.
Yeah, we were a C3, then we were a C4, and then what, 2003 or 4, we went back to to get it back. With the change in the, you know, there's all kinds of rules on a 501c3, but whatever. It just, you know, when we're building things that cost $14 million, we can't make that much money.
But starting out, we absolutely could never picture $14 million.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Never picture it.
Well, $5 million about killed us in 2007. It was like, really, we wanna have this, but those hot pools, they were supposed to cost 2, and then like
Well,
everything.
the 5 million
and
was
then 5
supposed to take care of the pools and the building, and by the time that we got all the planning and stuff done, it just about covered the building and didn't pay anything on the pools.
Well, it did, pretty much. We weren't, as I say, we weren't as much over on that project as we are, maybe $1 million. It was
No,
five.
but the costs of what construction was during that period had skyrocketed
Of
in
everything.
that couple of years of the planning.
Well, it was more like the hot pool, which, pray to God that the lap pool isn't the same thing, and I know it won't be because it's a lot drier out there. You know, every hole we dug at the hot pools was a hot spring. Boom, hot water everywhere. You know, every morning we come in here and go, oh my God, it's a lake in the thing, and then we're pumping it out and blah, blah, blah. But the lap pool is closer to the river and closer to the, whatever they call that sediment, you know, the rocks and stuff like that. There shouldn't be, they're not hot springs popping up out there. But man, they love it over here. So yeah, hopefully we can get that pool built without every day a lake out there or some other natural disaster. Yeah.
Well, I hope that answers, you know, it gives you some kind of an idea of the history of this place, but it goes back, as I say, to the 1920s. Actually, it goes back a lot
1880s.
farther than that. The Indians used to come here for hundreds of years to bathe in the healing waters. And when the Crawfords came, I don't know if
1880s.
I don't know if they built the Heart Spring.
Gossard did put the heart shape around the spring.
He did, okay.
Yeah, they kept digging around it, making it bigger, but Gossard, when he was gonna make it a spa, the Miracle Spa, he called it. And his timing is everything. He might have made that work if it wasn't the depths of the Depression, because nobody was traveling and nobody was whatever. So, yeah, he put those rocks that are around the pillars, made the heart-shaped deal, because that was marketing. He was a marketer, but yeah. And it's still heart-shaped right now.
And so we owe a great deal to those who went before.
Yep. Yeah, now Steph's gonna she told me she was gonna keep working here for
The next 30,
42 years.
42.
She told me she was gonna stay
Plus
as
or
long as
minus.
I did. Yeah, I think her fingers were crossed underneath.
They
the
are.
chair
I
when
can
she was
see that.
saying
I think some of you might be here longer than me at this point, if we can do the right thing here.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
So when you talk to people in our community, what do you say to convince them that it's a good choice to donate their money to Old Town Hot Springs?
I'm not a good one for fundraising. But I think that the Old Town Hot Springs is a real tremendous asset to the community that has been validated over the years. People come here, it's a place to meet, it's a place to recreate. It's a valuable asset that needs to be supported.
But what advice do you have for us, the board and the management team? What advice do you have for us for the future?
I don't have advice. You know, the people who are on the board, the people who are on the staff, are great supporters of this great facility. And it's a matter that, you know, I think that over the years, we worked very hard to maximize the property that we had. At one point, we were talking about buying the bank building or that property. It's not available. If it is, I don't think you got the, I won't say you won't have the money. You guys have done a hell of a job raising money. But I think that, well, the only thing that I can't see that has been done, years and years ago, Mike Holloran wanted to put paddleball courts up on the hillside. I don't know whether paddleball has enough of a following to make it worth.
Pickleball it would be, they've tried to get us to do that here.
But the use of the hillside, the use of the land that's here, the building, we did buy the trailer park across the way and make a parking lot out of that. But it's been a struggle all the way along, and it seems to me at this point you guys have done quite a job in terms of getting big money financial support, and that's something that I never had. Well, I was that 40 years that I was on the board, we never had that, and so take advantage of where you've got people that will support it. There obviously are enough people that feel that this is worth supporting, that you've got the big dollars coming in. Congratulations on the position on the board, and you and your fellow board members have a tremendous responsibility to keep this facility up and running. And I mean, I don't know where you go from here other than the pools. Once that's done, I'm not sure what comes next, although there always seems to be something.
Start creeping up that hill with
One step at a time.
yeah, exactly.
Rental cottages on the hill.
Let's get the pool.
Rental cottages on the hill. We can start some campsites, you know, those are cheap to build.
Well, we did at one point. We owned the land that the road, the Fish Creek Falls Road is up there, and we donated the land to the county, I guess.
No, to the city, and then in turn, they gave us 10 acres up the hill.
But anyway,
Yes.
every time that you drive up the hill towards, on Fish Creek Falls Road, you're driving on land that used to be,
That curve, yeah.
that used to be part of the Health and Rec. So, you know, going back to the 20s, Gossard had a dream, and it's coming true.
I'm sorry that Gloria died before we pulled it off. She would have been a big supporter. Instead, she gave all her money to the city and everyone else, but timing is everything, right? Yeah.
I hope this helped in terms of some kind of a background. I mean, the place has quite a history.
It does.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, I've worked here for 5 years and I've heard some of this, but I haven't heard all of this. This is awesome. Cool.
Well, board members came and went. Thankfully, Pat didn't went. But in the beginning, you know, directors came and went, managers came and went. And so you gotta have people who are bought in, and it sounds like that's what you've got now.
Yeah.
And I thank you very much for the consideration that you have. As I said, I don't think Bud's Bridge really should be Bud's Bridge, but it.
I think so.
I think that's a great story. It needs to live on.
I wanna name it after Scott McGinnis.
What's that?
I said, we don't wanna name it after Scott McGinnis.
Or Mr. Butler.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, Butler, the postmaster.
Well, Bud, thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for the comment.